Welcome to our web development workshop today. Today, me and Janelle will be discussing HTML and CSS principles. I will start with some general ACM announcements, and then we will start our workshop. Okay, so I wanted to remind you to sign in to today's meeting. Remember that every time you sign in, that is one more entry towards winning one of the prizes that we raffle towards the end of the semester. We will be raffling out a 3D printer. We will have some stickers and swag as well. So make sure that you sign in so that you could increase your chance in winning any of these prizes. The link is in the description below. And if you have any questions during our meeting today, you can put them in the Slido or in the YouTube chat. We will do our best to get to those questions. Also, please remember to pay your dues. You can pay online. You can go to the ACM UTSA website under the tab Join, or you can scan this QR code that we have provided for you all here. This will direct you to that page. Also, make sure to join our social media platforms. We are in almost every social media platform. We post regular updates and announcements. So please make sure to go and follow these to stay up to date on everything that's going on with ACM. So we do have some upcoming events. We have ACM with their general Saturday meetings that are held on Discord. So make sure to go in there and log into their Discord. They practice interview practice problems for that technical interview. So make sure to attend at 10 a.m. to get that practice. We also have a new event hosted by Southern University A&M, hosted by their ACM chapter. New Relic is a software company, and they will be teaching to y'all about internship opportunities on a wide spectrum of tech fields. So please go check them out if you want more information on internships that they provide. And this will be on October 16th. It lands on a Friday, and it'll be from 2 to 3 p.m. via Zoom. Rowdy Creators will have their meeting on October 18th from 3 to 5. It's held on Discord, so please go check them out. And we also have MLH Local Hack Day. They will be hosting workshops and on a variety of topics, tech topics. And if you're able to attend these workshops, you'll get to earn points and possibly win cool swag. They run their event from October 18th to October 24th. They have a lot of topics, so please go check them out. We have this QR code if you want more information. And ACM-W will have their next meeting on Tuesday, October 20th. Since it's Google, they're not recording it. So if you want to attend this meeting, make sure that you do so live, because we will not be able to provide the recording afterwards. They'll be covering the topic writing clean code workshop. They'll be focusing on that. So make sure to attend it live. ACM will have their meeting Wednesday, October 21st with Valero Energy. They'll be talking about recent projects and the development and enterprise architecture. Okay, so without further ado, we will start. I will pass it back to Janelle on this one.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for those announcements. So this is going to be our basic web development with HTML and CSS. So first we're going to start by kind of defining what are HTML and what's CSS. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And so it's the standard markup language for creating web pages. And so this is important because we're not necessarily saying programming language because it's a little bit different. This markup language will say what different content we want to display on our web page. And so, for example, the different content that we can have is like the heading of a web page. What do we want the heading on our web page to say? Or maybe we have little paragraphs of text on our web page, or images, and this will all be coded through HTML. And so through this, and through the order in which we code these things, HTML will give us a basic structure for our web page, and we can put in there information that we want to be displayed on our web page. And so how HTML itself is set up is you code in a series of like elements. So you create a bunch of elements, and then you can use other things like CSS to kind of more specifically tell the browser like how to display them. But HTML will provide like this little like kind of default way to display these elements. But that brings us to CSS if you want to get more fancy with it. So CSS it stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and CSS is a presentation language. So again, it's not like markup language or programming language, it's presentation language because it will tell the computer how to display certain things in your web page. So in our case, it would be different ways to display a header. And so you can display these differently by choosing different fonts or different colors or adding other different aesthetic effects to it. And so what CSS is doing is it's providing the visual or the front end kind of your web page. And so if we take a look really quick, we can see that actually ACM's webpage, we can see if we inspect it that we have some code over here. And HTML and CSS are contributing to this web page. So we see we have HTML up here. Let's see if I can make that a little bigger. So we see we have HTML over here, so we can tell that this is an HTML document that's actually saying what content we want to provide on our web page. And so we'll go in a little bit to what some of these different things in this text means. So we see div, that's a tag in HTML that we'll get into. But just the basic ideas from this is all web pages are made up of like a structure and a style component, which is HTML and CSS in our case for this workshop. So we said that HTML, it's made up of a series of elements, and that's how we code is in a series of elements. So what is an element? An element contains three things: a start tag, the contents of the element, and then an end tag. So what we mean by start tag is HTML has a bunch of different elements and or a bunch of different tags, and we'll go into those actually on the next couple slides. But you need the name of the tag, and this will be in these two brackets. And then we have the content that'll go in that tag, and then the end tag, which it is the same as the start tag in that it's the name of the tag, but the end tag is denoted with this little slash. And so if you're not quite following, like, okay, what's the tag name, what's the content, we will actually be getting into some examples next. So this is just the basic structure that we want you to keep in mind for an HTML element. So in a tag, they specify different ways or different forms of content. So for example, a heading is defined with the HTML tag h1. And this one comes from the size of the text that's the heading. So I believe there's like 1 through 6 or something like that, to where 1 through 6 just dictates what size the heading is. But for us, we'll use h1 here first. So this is the name of our tag. And so we see it here on the code snippet. And then the content is going to be what we want our heading to say. And so it says my first heading, and then we have our end tag with that slash again. And so another tag is paragraph, or another tag is P, and that's for writing paragraphs on our web page, or just like a body of text. And so we can do the same thing where we have the P tag, and then we have the content of the P tag, and then the end. So we see that when we put these together in this code down here, we see that our website will say my first heading and then my first paragraph. And we see that the H tag made it a heading and the P tag made it a smaller body of text. And I will pass it back to Vanessa to tell us a little bit more about some other tags.
Thank you, Janelle. So these are 3 other tags that are very important in HTML. They're also one of the most common ones. So the first one is links. So you would use this tag whenever you want to link a specific website. It can be pretty much any website, and it's defined with the angle brackets with an A in the center. The href is an attribute that links the destination in more specific. So you notice here we have two quotations, and the link that we want to access would go in here. This black text that you see here would be what would be visible and what the user can click on and be directed to this page. We also have images, the image tag, which is defined with the angle brackets and img. With this, you can specify the path of the image to display. That is what SRE stands for, source file. We can also modify the width and height. ALT is alternate text that describes a little bit about what the image is. In case it doesn't display, the user still has visibility on what was supposed to be there. This would show up. And then we have the body, which is defined with the angle brackets and the word body. Everything that would be displayed in the website would be within the body. We have an example right here. As you can see, all of the content is within the body. We would have H1 and H2 if we wanted them nested. H1 would be of more importance than H2. It can vary from H1 all the way to H6. We have our image right here. And as you can see to the right, it was displayed correctly. And like I said, the height and the width can be modified directly on here. We have our link that displayed correctly too. That would be what we would click, and we would be directed to this website. We also have the header, and later on we'll talk about how we can center it and align it with CSS properties. Okay.
All right, so speaking of CSS, so there are also different HTML tags that can help you when you go to format all of this information that you are coding with these HTML tags. And so one of those things is a div tag. And so div is a tag for the division of a section. So adding these div tags, like you see in this code below, it doesn't do anything to the appearance on the website. So why is it useful? So it's useful because you can use these div tags in order to logically organize your code. So it can be easier to read. Because if you have a lot of code and it's all just on the same line all the way down, then you might be confused kind of what is what. So for example, here we can use this div tag to separate out a section that's all about this link. Another great use for a div tag, this isn't, it's not very common to use only div tags to organize. It's more common to use an ID or a class. And so to each div tag or to each section within the div tag, you can add a ID or a class, and this will help you access those elements more easily, because you don't want to be writing a bunch of code and for every code have to tell it, okay, on this line with this header, I want it to be the color blue. That's something CSS would do. But you don't want to have to go and write that for every single header. So you can use div to separate out your code and then add an ID or class to it as an attribute so that you can manipulate it in CSS more efficiently. And so that's what a div tag is it just kind of separates a different code. And so I talked about how we can use different attributes with the div tag. One of these attributes is an ID. And so what an ID is it's a unique specifier for a certain tag and the content within that tag. And so it will give that tag a unique ID. And so the ID is just defined inside your start tag. You have the tag, which this is a header, and then you say ID equals and the name of it. And like I said, it has to be unique, so you can't use the same ID for multiple sections or multiple lines of code. And like I was saying with div, this is where div can become really useful, is if you want the whole section to be identified as my link, then in CSS, which we'll talk about more later, then you can access this entire block of HTML code just with this ID called my link, and you can manipulate it from there. And so you see down here, we say in style sheet, use this. And so this is where we're talking about the CSS code that we'll get into later. We can access all of our HTML code and all of that content by using pound ID or the name of the ID. So it'd be pound my header. And then you have brackets where you can manipulate the style using CSS. So another attribute that we can use is the class attribute. And so the class attribute is a descriptor for a general category of elements. So whereas a ID you can only use once in your HTML document, you can use a class over again. So let's say, for example, we want all of our headers to be a certain color. So we can lump them into one class, and every time that we have an element that's a header, we can assign its class attribute to be this header. And so that's what we're doing here, is we have two headers that say different things, one's above the other, and we want to group them together so that maybe we can make all of our headers a different font, or maybe we can make them all blue. And so when we use CSS, what we would do to do this is we would access it by dot the class name, so it would be dot header, and then an open bracket, and then we have our code for how we want to style it, and then a closed bracket. And so this attribute, along with ID and div, can be used to kind of break up your code into different sections and make it more efficient to apply different styles across there. And so if we're going to be using these style sheets, if we're going to be using CSS, how does HTML and CSS talk to one another? Well, we'll get into that in a little bit, but I just wanted to preface, while we're still talking about HTML tags and attributes, that there is a tag to link an HTML document to a CSS document. And so this tag is called link, and below is an example of this code where we have the link tag, and then we say that we want the rel, or the relationship between our current HTML document and the external document. So it would be style sheet if we're linking a HTML document to a CSS document. And then we have the href, or the location of the external document. So if it's in the same folder, we can just say that we want to link it to this other file called styles.css. But maybe if it's in the directory above, then we would do //styles.css. So this is how we can make multiple documents kind of talk to each other. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of how HTML tags are kind of set up, some examples of them, but also what more you can do as you can add these attributes like an ID or a class in order to help you when you go to modify the style of it as well.
Okay, thank you, Janelle. So I wanted to study a little bit the site structure for HTML. Notice that every HTML site, the first line, it begins with information about the type of document. In this case, it's doc type, lowercase, HTML. This gives the browser information about which HTML version we're using. There's a lot, but the most commonly used one is HTML5. So the first line in all HTML documents starts with the type of document that we're using. And then this HTML tag is also always at the beginning, and we have a closing one at the end as well. Closing the tag is important, but sometimes if you don't close it, it will still compile, but you should not rely on this because it can create unexpected errors. So you should always make sure to close every tag that you open. What this tag does, HTML, it defines the root of an HTML document, and all the visible parts of the HTML document are between the body tags. Like I mentioned, everything that will be displayed has to be within these two body tags. And also notice how an HTML site is composed of HTML elements that are nested, meaning that every element can contain other elements. Okay. I also wanted to note that that this is a good example of what clean code looks like. It would be a lot more difficult for the coder to analyze and read code that doesn't have the correct tags opened and closed properly and spaced out correctly. So what these header tags and footer tags do is make it a lot easier for the coder to read the document as a whole, and it's better for the eye, and it's a really good practice to write clean code like this. Okay, I also want to study a little bit the page structure. So when web developers first try to make an HTML page, they try to break it down. Usually HTML is a big rectangle formed with other smaller nested rectangles. As you see here, we have one big rectangle, and inside of it, there's other smaller ones. And and each small rectangle is an element. So that's a good way to think about it. When you're building a web page, to first have an idea or a visualization of what you want it to look like. This will simplify the process of actually building it and making each element. You see here, everything is broken down from the body to the header to the title to the headings, the paragraphs, another paragraph. So this is a good structure to follow. And all HTML websites are broken down into smaller rectangles. Okay, so Janelle mentioned CSS, so I just want to refresh on that. CSS is for styling and formatting the aesthetics of a page. And there's 3 different ways to inserting a style sheet. So one of them is external style sheet. You would use this when you want to change the look of an entire website by changing one file. So in this case, our file is mystyle.css. So this is a completely separate file from HTML. The HTML page must include a reference that I know Janelle mentioned earlier to the external styling sheet file inside the link element tag. And this would be located in the head section of the HTML. So external is different because it's a completely different file just for CSS. And it must be saved as a CSS extension, and it won't contain any HTML tags. And then we also have internal CSS. What this is, this would be used if one single HTML, if you want a single HTML page to have a unique style. It's common to have a lot of HTML files. So if you wanted to change just one, you would use it. You would use an internal CSS styling sheet. Internal style page is defined in the style element up here inside the head section. Right here, you would define what you want to change, what element you want to change. In this case, it's the body. It's changing the color. The header 1. In this case, we're changing the color and the margins, and we would close the style. And this is how you would use the internal style sheet. And then we also have the inline CSS, which would be useful for applying a unique change to a single element, only. To use in style, you would add the style attribute to the relevant element. In this case, it's header 1. The style attribute contains any CSS property that you would like to modify in that single element. We also changed this paragraph. We changed the style, so we would actually put the CSS the CSS property that we want to change inside the tag. So notice how this is different than the external CSS. In this case, we're changing the color red, and we're making this text red. And then we would close the body. We would make sure to close all the tags. So that is the difference between these 3. External sheet is a completely different file. We will show a little bit more on that on the demo that we have later. So I know in the previous slides we have used some CSS syntax, so I just wanted to explain a little bit more about the syntax. So selector 1 is the element that you want to change. So whether this is paragraph 1, if this is header 1 or header 2, it would be defined here. And then Inside the brackets is our declaration. You can have multiple declarations in one line. These are separated by a semicolon. And first, you would type the property. That is what you want, what you want to be changed. And then followed by these colons is the value, what that change is to the property. As you can see right here, it's blue. We're changing the color to blue. We're changing the font size to 12. And like I said, you can have multiple declarations in this one line. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to show a little example here. So this would be inline. This would be internal styling, since we're changing some specific features. We have in this example, we're changing H1. We're changing the header to white, and then we're also aligning the text to the center. Notice that we're doing this inside the HTML file, and that we don't have an external CSS file. We're doing this inside the HTML file. And then we have a paragraph. We're changing the font size and the font style. And notice how this is done inside the head. Like I mentioned, the styling is done inside the head, and we have closing and ending brackets for each. Oops. Okay, next I wanted to move on to a small demo where we show an external CSS. Okay, so there's a lot of HTML code editors out there, but one that I really liked was Visual Code. And this is compatible with Macs, Linux, Windows, and it's very easy to download. It opens as a zip file. So what I did was I created a new file. Through here, went to new file, saved it as HTML.
Hey, Vanessa.
Yes.
Do you want to go ahead and share your screen?
Oh, oops. Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, can you see my screen, Janelle?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so as I was saying, I downloaded Visual Code. It's compatible with Macs, Linux, and Windows. This is a really good editor for HTML. It also has extensions that you can add, such as Live Server, where you can actually view your HTML file with the Live Server in live time. It would update immediately, and you can see what you've been working on and how your changes have been applied. It also has a lot of other extensions that can be useful for more complex HTML code. They also have an extension where you don't have to worry about having a closing bracket, because they automatically add one. For example, if I open one, it automatically adds one that closes. So this really helps to make sure that you don't forget any closing brackets or any semicolons or it really helps with the syntax. Furthermore, it also helps you with the color. Instead of looking up the hex color, you can type in the name, and it automatically updates to the hex color. For example, if I was trying to get red, I don't have to go and look up the hex color for red. I can just simply type in red and it updates. There's also a lot of extensions that are available. You would just have to go to these little squares right here and browse and explore some that they have. I downloaded a few, but there's a lot more that they have that are very useful. I already have my files open, but if you didn't have your files open, you would go to here and open a file, and your files, your HTML files and CSS files would open. You can also access your code through here using Git. It has some instructions right here. You can pull and push from Git, which is also really helpful. So you can save your code globally and also have access to it on a local repository. Okay, so I made a small demo here. I started by defining which HTML I'm using. I opened this HTML tag. I referenced my style sheet, which Janelle mentioned earlier is very important. My CSS file is called my style. So I would put that in quotations, add this attribute so that it can note the specific location. And then this is done inside the head, since we're trying to reference a CSS file, an external CSS file. And then I have a header. I named it just something simple like this. I have a website that I included here. This is what would direct the viewers to the website. And then I also have an image from Google. If I wanted to access an image that was in my computer, I would have to specify the file path with these backslash with a few backlashes depending on where I would have it. I could modify the width and height through here. So, and then in my CSS file, what I have is the background color set to red. If I wanted a different color, I could just type it right here, light blue, with a colon in the middle. My header, if I wanted to change my header, I would specify what properties I want it to have here inside the brackets. The color is set to navy. The text align is center. If I wanted to change that, I could just simply type in here to the left or to the right. But for now, I can leave it as centered. And then in order to see this live, since I have this extension here already installed in VS Code, I could just click here. But let me save it first. Let me save my files first. So let's see what this does. So go live. So as you can see, our code compiled and worked. Let's see if I can. So with this extension, we're able to see our changes immediately on our page. If I wanted to change it to red, let's see if it would update. As you can see, the color, it's really easy to change the color, and it updates almost immediately. For now, I'll leave it to light blue. If I wanted to add some more information, I would create another paragraph with the correct tags. If I wanted to add more pictures, I could include another picture from Google, or if I have them saved to my computer, I would specify the file path with these backslashes. And let's change it. Okay, and we could add another header right here. We could name it learning about butterflies. Let's see what this would do. And as you can see, since we have our extension installed, we don't have to worry about putting an end tag. That is done for us already, which is very convenient. Let's see if, oops, I think I opened more than one. And then if we wanted to center it, we could go to style, could go like this. We could change the color to, we can try pink. Good. Text align. You see how it pops up thanks to the extensions. And then we could center it as well. And let's see if that updates. Let me save it. You see our changes were reflected successfully onto here. And if we want to keep on adding more paragraphs or more headers, more information, we could do that by going to the HTML, to the HTML file. But if we wanted to change our formats, we would have to go to our mystyle.css file. So that can be done through that. That is all I have for the demo. Do we have any questions on the Slido, Janelle?
Let me check again, but last I checked, no questions in the Slido and none in the YouTube chat. So anything you all are wondering, feel free to throw in there. We do have a few minutes here at the end ready for questions just set aside for that. So if you're wondering anything, feel free to drop it in there.
And today we decided to cover some of the more basic topics for CSS and HTML. But in the future, if we can cover some more complex topics in HTML and CSS, and we can talk a little bit more about how we would use JavaScript for web development. But for today, we just decided to cover some of the more basic topics for web development. And of course, there is a lot of resources out there. One of my favorite ones is, let me see if I can pull it up right here, is this right here. They talk more in depth about JavaScript, the role of JavaScript in web development. So you should go check this out if you want more information. It's a really great resource, and it has a lot of content and explains very well in detail about HTML. So if you have any more questions regarding this, or if you have a project of your own that you would like to go about, you should definitely check this out. Web development is a very good skill for underclassmen to learn and very useful. It's very, very popular in the tech industry as well. So it's a very it's a complex skill, but it's very, very useful. And it's also really fun to work with. So if we don't have any more questions, I think we will end it right here.
Yeah, let me put up the slide really quick with our next events for ACM. Let's see. Vanessa, if you stop sharing your screen, then I will put up our events really quick. Just as a refresher. So like we said in the beginning, this Friday, Southern University A&M ACM chapter will be having an info session with the company New Relic, their software company, like Vanessa said. And then this Saturday, we have ICPC, and they meet every Saturday from 10 to 1 in the Discord. So that's something you can pop in anytime and sharpen up those technical interview skills. And then not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, Google's coming for ACM-W, so put that on your calendar. And then not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday, we'll have Valero Energy for our general ACM meeting. And just a reminder, if you're interested in the local hack day for MLH, use this QR code to sign up. It's a whole week of learning a bunch of different tech topics, and you can earn points for us here at ACM by joining the Rowdy Hacks Guild. So that is all. I think Vanessa wrapped it up great. So we'll go ahead and end it here. Thank you all.